Hey, I hope you're having an absolutely incredible day. Today, I'm going to be running you through how we can generate thumbnails for our short form content posts that we're going to be making. So, in my last video, we went through taking an AI news article, creating a newsletter, and then turning those into post descriptions as well as transcripts for what you can say during that video. And the next step is really to create thumbnails. Because if you look at my page right now, you can see that all of these videos, they don't have thumbnails. So I'm just trying to make it more captivating and be able to reach a larger audience. And I think one way that I could do that is by incorporating thumbnails into my posts. So that is what we're going to do today. So in order to do this, you're going to need Airtable. You're also going to need make.com to be able to do the automation. And you're also going to need Leonardo AI API access to be able to generate the artwork. So in order to do that, we are going to add a new column here. We are going to name this generate thumbnail, and we're going to make it a checkbox. I'm going to create the field. All right, we're also going to need a record ID. For this, you can just type formula in and record ID. You'll see it pop up. Finish the parentheses, create the field, and now we have all the record IDs for every single individual column here. Now we are going to go into automation. We're going to create a new automation. We'll just title it generate thumbnails, and we're going to hop back into data. We are going to create another grid. This grid view is going to be called thumbnails. So actually what we're going to do is we're going to change this just to thumbnail and make it an attachment. We'll save the video, the images that get created here. And then we're going to create another grid, and this grid is going to be called generate thumbnails. We're also going to add a created date, so a created time, and we are also going to create a modified time. This just helps us with debugging later if ever we need. All right, now we're going to head on over to make, into scenarios. We are going to create a new scenario, which is going to be Airtable. We're going to watch for responses. And we are going to create a webhook. We're going to call it the news short form content webhook. I'll just save that. We'll copy this address to clipboard. We'll head back onto our Airtable. We'll go to our automations, and we're going to add a trigger, and that is going to be when a record enters view. Select the table, AI news short form content, generate thumbnails, pop back into data to generate thumbnails. And we are going to filter it by a condition where, so the filter is going to be where short form transcript is not empty and the post description is not empty. We'll hit apply, and then we are going to come back into AI news short form content. We're going to add one more status here, which is going to be create thumbnail, and hit save. Head back into generate thumbnails and filter by where the status is create thumbnail. Now it's blank. We'll come back in here. We'll test it out with this one. Flip this into create thumbnail, and now we'll see it pop up here. Perfect. Now we can go back to our automations. We can choose the record that we want to use. Now we want to run a script. So now we're going to go back. We're going to copy our webhook. We're going to come back in here. We're going to paste it here. So you need this specific code to trigger. That's what's going to trigger our make scenario. So let params equal input config await fetch your webhook plus record ID equal to params record ID, and then we're going to have this custom action, which is going to be generate thumbnail. And then we are also going to add an input variable that is going to be record ID. Make sure it's spelled exactly like this, because that's how we're passing it here with a capital I. And then for value, we're going to expand, and we're going to grab that Airtable record ID, and then we're going to finish editing. And now if we test the action and we come into here, hit OK, we run it, it should send the response to make right now. And now we can see that the record ID was passed successfully, as well as the action of generating the thumbnail. Now we're going to add a router. We can just delete one module for now. We are going to set up a filter. This filter is going to be generate thumbnail. Condition is going to be equal to the action. So action is equal to generate thumbnail. And so when this webhook is triggered and we pass, and it has the generate thumbnail tag attached, it is going to pass through this router and then, do a series of actions. So the next thing we need to do is get a record. So we're going to go into Airtable, get a record. You're going to choose your base. So you want to make your connection to Airtable. If you don't know how to do that, you can just go in here, you click developer hub, and then follow the API steps. It's super easy to set up. I also covered in previous videos, so I'm not going to go over it right now, but that's what you would do. You come in here, you choose your worksheet. In my case, it's AI news. The table is going to be AI news short form content, and then the record ID is going to be the record ID from the watch responses. So now it is gone. It has gotten that record. All right, guys, so we're just going to save this for right now. We're going to back out, going to head into AI news to short form content. So right now it is creating the short form content transcript. It is also creating the caption. And then we're going to add a third one, which is going to generate the thumbnail prompt. So set that to user message content is going to be equal to what we're about to send it. All right, guys. So this is the prompt that I came up with. So I have a story for which I need to generate an AI image generation prompt. Should be hyper realistic and futuristic. Should be dynamic and vibrant, and then guidelines. I start each prompt with create a hyper-realistic futuristic image of visual elements, incorporate specific visual elements that should be highlighted, and then the aim is to receive creative engaging prompts. Here is the story I want to use, and then I use the post description right here. And we're going to come back in here, we're going to add another one. It is going to be called prompt. Just save it as a long text, create the field. We'll drag it down next to these. Come back into here, rename this thumbnail prompt. Max tokens we can just set to 0. I'm gonna hit OK, and now test this out. If we flip this bad boy into create short form content, come back here, run this once, it is going to create all of that for us. Boom. So now you can see it's updated. So we could see here, create a hyper realistic futuristic image of a dynamic Formula One racetrack with a sleek, shiny StatBot AI Copilot prominently displayed along racing. It actually gave us a couple options. So now we can read through, choose the best one that we like. So I like the first one. We get rid of the rest. Perfect. Save that. We can flip this now, create thumbnail. Now if we go into our generate thumbnails, you can see we have, just bring in the thumbnail prompt down here. Now that's good. We're going to go ahead and save that. And we're going to back out and head back to what we were creating. We'll just save that. Now it's going to generate the thumbnail. It's going to watch the response. That response is going to be triggered by this automation. So whenever a record enters the generate thumbnails view, it runs this code which triggers this. So it's going to pull that record. Now we are going to make a connection to Leonardo, generate an image. The prompt is going to be the thumbnail prompt. For the model, you're going to choose absolute reality, but you are more than welcome to mess around and find out one that suits your brand. Number of images to generate, we are going to we're going to show advanced settings. Public, we can just set that to no. And then the height we are going to set to 576 and the width to 1024, which is the same as the square, but Leonardo, this is the maximum output size, so it needs to be within that. So we just modified the ratio so that it still works. The rest can be blank, and then we're going to set the SD version to version 2 and hit OK. And once that is created, we are going to need to push that back to our Airtable here. So we're going to update a record. Same thing, choose your base, choose your table. Record ID is going to be the record ID from step 1. Okay, so we're just going to run this once, make sure it works. Go ahead, we'll test the action, and you can see it passes through, it gets the record. Now it's generating the image, and we should have our prompt. Image was completed successfully. We have our image generation job ID here, and we're going to add an HTTP request. So you're going to want to copy in this API, this URL, and then paste the image generation job ID that was generated. We're going to add in some headers. So accept, application, JSON, and authorization. You'll put bearer. Then you'll put your API key in right here. So you'll paste your API key right here, and then just make sure you parse the response. So we're going to hit OK. And then lastly, we'll update a record within Airtable. Use the base, use the table, set the record ID to the record ID from step 1. We're going to unlink it. We're going to run it once to get the URL. We'll head back into here, test the action again, generate the image, then we should be able to grab the URL. And then once we have that URL, which will be the download link, we can pass that back to Airtable. So I do believe it's this. So if we connect this back now, this is our table. The file URL is going to be data generations by PK. So generated images, URL. Boom, file name, we'll leave it empty. It'll just save it as something. We'll hit OK. I'm also going to change, I made a mistake, but the height should be 1024 and the width should be 576. So I'm just going to reverse those. We're going to save that, hit OK. We'll save this whole scenario, run it once. We'll head back into our automation. We'll let it fire. Now it should have completed, should have successfully updated the thumbnail. So let's head back into table, and now you can see our generate thumbnail. Well, once we had flipped it into create thumbnail, the thumbnail's right there, and we have our thumbnails now for our posts. And now for every single one of your posts that are short form pieces of content, you'll have this dynamic thumbnail that you can have on your videos. And so super powerful. I'm going to be building this out more and making it even more incredibly powerful and complex. And so if you are interested and want to do the same for yourself, I would really appreciate if you subscribed. And other than that, I hope you have an incredible day, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.